Hey there, and thank you for tuning in to Podcasting for Financial Professionals. We're continuing the summer 2025 mini-series today, in which I'm pulling forward a clip from an interview in the show's archives and unpacking the tips or advice shared so that you can hear how it applies today and how doing what they said might look for you and your show. I'm Virginia Elder, your host and owner of Podcast Abundance, the leading provider of audio and video production for financial service professionals. Today, we're unpacking why and how you'd align your show's length, format, topics, and production style with 2025 consumer expectations. Rocky Lalvani, owner of Profit Comes First and host of two podcasts, Richer Soul and Profit Answer Man, was on episode 5 of this show back when it was called Reaching Abundance. For those of you watching on YouTube who might want Rocky's entire interview, that full episode is linked above. We talked about reverse engineering your business around your lifestyle, implementing profit first in your business, and referenced some solid practices to building a sustainable, profitable business, among, of course, some podcasting tips. All right, check out this clip and then we'll discuss. I would like to hear about how you've grown and your personal development as a podcaster, like how having a podcast has forced you to grow.
Over time, the quality of your guests keeps going up and up. And so it starts to become incredible. Hey, wait, who pitched me about coming on my show? And that happens over time. The other thing is to keep improving and to have conversations. Let's face it, there's good podcasts and there's bad podcasts. I think bad podcasts are the ones that are formulaic. They ask the same 6 questions of every guest. It's not a conversation. They haven't done their homework to know what to even talk about. And so I think that's a big part of it. It's just kind of getting it down. But yeah, I think over time, it's building confidence in knowing that you can have the conversation, studying how to do it better. Like, go listen to the best podcast. What is the host doing? How do they do things? And who do I want to emulate in the way that I do my show? Like, I always pre-prep, so I have tons of questions ready to roll on the particular subject. And we also do guest research and all of that so that you're going in knowing what you want to kind of accomplish. And the other thing is having a good first question to get the conversation moving, because once it gets moving, it'll keep going.
Okay, first, wow, has the production and editing quality of my own episodes improved? It's quite enlightening looking back at these clips. Absolutely amazing. In this clip, said or implied, are 5 tips that I'm absorbing from what Rocky shared. Number 1, your podcast is a mirror for your personal growth and self-leadership. Rocky hints that as you improve your podcasting skills, researching, asking better questions, building confidence, you're actually building the same muscles you need to run a successful financial service business. Curiosity, adaptability, and deep listening are all required. Here's what that tip looks like in action for you today. Treat every interview as practice for refining your curiosity and understanding your clients better. It's not about performing or being some projected version of yourself just because the camera's on. It's about becoming the kind of person your ideal clients trust with their finances and long-term financial decisions. Tip number 2, preparation equals professionalism. When Rocky says, I always pre-prep, He's not just talking about podcast prep. He's signaling that thorough preparation is expected at a high level. How embarrassing would it be if your guest was an author and you didn't even know the title of his book? Yikes, right? At the very least, you'd want to know what the heck they wrote about. And at a higher level, you'd want to have read the book so you could ask questions that address your listener's life stage and concerns. In finance, law, or the medical field, that's the difference between a generic advisor and a trusted partner. Here's what this might look like in practice. Your prep for each podcast guest is a reflection of how you'll prepare for your client's needs. If your listeners can tell you're flying by the seat of your pants, that's a turnoff because, hey, so are you going to approach my financial future that way? I hope not. Show them what a pro you are by being over-prepared for your interviews. Your approach to your podcast mirrors your client service approach. Caring, tailored, in depth. All right, insight number 3. The art of the interview, guiding, not grilling. Rocky says, straight up, formulaic interviews are the worst. They feel lazy, surface level, and they don't serve the audience or the guest. A good host guides the conversation toward what the audience needs, not just what the host wants to check off their list. Here's how you put this into action. Ask yourself, what transformation or insight do I want my listener to walk away with? Then design each episode around that question, not a pre-planned question list that you regurgitate in every interview. Do your research on the guest by listening to other interviews they've done, exploring their website, check their social media, and maybe even join their email list ahead of time so you can review their welcome sequence and get a sense for their style of communication and what they share inside their business. You can get like the true experience. Number 4, confidence creates access. Rocky mentions that over time, high-profile guests start pitching you. This only happens if you show up confidently and consistently so that your show is seen as a credible stage. Here's how you build your confidence as a podcast host. Invest in building your hosting skills and consistency early on in the process. It's a trust-building exercise for future guests and future clients. It signals that you're a serious professional. You can explore voice acting classes, hire a coach to help you improve your interview skills, and improve your ability to hold a conversation, or simply learn from experience. Of course, if you choose to learn from experience versus a guided process, your learning curve is slower and longer. So just keep that in mind. Number 5, your podcast is a powerful trust funnel. It's beyond marketing. Rocky's point about people showing up, quote unquote, ready to buy after 20 to 30 hours of listening highlights how a podcast isn't just content you're creating. It is a trust funnel. That connection is so deep that when they show up to your discovery call or a sales call or a webinar, they are already sold because of the hours that you've logged building episodes. Here's how to apply this concept. Think of each episode as a mini client meeting. Your focus is to build trust, show your expertise, let them hear your personality. When those listeners finally call you, they are not a cold lead. They feel like they already know you. These 5 tips drawn from this tiny snippet of Rocky's interview are really powerful. But here's how they align with listeners' expectations according to the 2025 Podcast Marketing Trends Report that just came out in June, which at the time of this recording is just last month. So this is really fresh data. You'll find the link to this report in the show notes so you can check it out yourself. But here we go. The number of all-time listener research conversations was highest for those who have more than 10,000 downloads per episode. So the biggest shows are getting feedback and having conversations with listeners about what they want, not just going off of a host-led agenda. That parallels with what Rocky mentioned about the show's format. He suggested ditching interview questions that are repetitive or basic and diving into an educated conversation with your guest that serves your listeners. All right, next thing. The shows that grew the most in 2024 were an average of 38 minutes long and were an interview format. This bucks the assumption that listeners are tired of interviews and that your show would just get lost as just another interview show. The other trend that it bucks is that listeners have shorter attention spans these days and probably won't listen to anything longer than 20 minutes. I have heard all of these assumptions with zero data to back them up. And now here's this report that proves these assumptions wrong. High quality, 30-something minute long interviews are still working. Next, frequency of publish is everything. 7.1 was the median number of days between episodes for the surveyed shows. Of the highest growth shows, 64% had published within the last 7 days, and 91% had published an episode within the past 30 days. So, just like Rocky said, your consistency is your interview for fit with a potential new client. Podcast listeners are very used to a weekly show cadence, so design a way to meet that expectation. Even if it's a repurposed coaching call, a recorded conversation you had with a client with their voice disguised, or a conversation with a colleague about a client situation and how you're providing a creative solution. You can get really creative with your episode formats because I guarantee you just in your life, there is content that's happening every day. You're just not recording it. And so then when you look at, well, gosh, how could I create a weekly show that seems like a lot of work? It's probably really not much more work. It's just a matter of, hey, pause, let's take this conversation behind the mic and recording a conversation you would have anyways. And finally, I want to give you some encouragement here in this last tip and parallel with this report. According to this report, the top 2 highest growth percentage category shows are in the business genre. So, for those of you who think finances and business are already crowded, think again, because there are shows who have absolutely doubled their listenership or more over 1 year. So through 2024 is when they collected this data in the business category. So ditch the assumptions, because true studied data of over 300 shows basically threw everything that we were all assuming out the window. I hope you took notes. If not, check out the show notes for the action items I mentioned, and feel free to evaluate this report yourself because the link is in there too. The big picture takeaway I want you to have from this episode is the simple question of, what do you as an individual need to work on to provide a greater benefit to your listeners? Is it your interview skills? Is it adjusting your show's format or length? Is it niche and your bravery to speak on an in-depth, potentially narrow topic that would serve a very certain subset of people really well? Are your episodes' length or style wearing on you as the creator and rendering the podcast unsustainable or inconsistent? Well, because you know who's in control of all of that, right? It's you. You don't need permission. You're the boss. If you need guidance on how to adjust things or how to better align your show with your business goals, I'm here for you. If it's strategy you need, you'll work directly with me. And if it's production you need, you'll still work with me. But my team will be doing the editing, graphics, show notes, scheduling, and more in the background while you and I focus on content topics, scheduling, and calls to action. If you have a show already, sometimes it helps to go back to square one and pretend you don't and brainstorm what the ideal message, topics, and what perspective you would share. So I'm inviting you, whether you have an existing show or not, to download the podcast launch workbook from the link in the show notes and walk through those exercises from a mentally clean slate. Then evaluate. Are you on the right track? Is what you wrote down what you're already doing? If not, there's your clarity on the changes that need to be made. As always, I'm here to help. Thank you for listening today, and at risk of sounding like your middle school teacher here, don't forget to do your homework. See you next week with another Minisode.